Today we're gonna start some sort of mini series about Nukers, and I'm gonna split it in 4 different parts where we're gonna talk about each of them in terms of affinities. In today's video we're gonna see the top 5 Nukers, either PvP and PvE, that belong to the Force affinity, which means like the red affinity. And these Nukers are mainly based in personal opinion. Like I said many times, this is my channel, I don't have the absolute truth, and probably I've even missed some champions that I just went over them. So if I'm missing any of these, or you have personal experience that this champion hit really hard, you can leave it down in the comments. But I just made a little top 5 where we're gonna see why and who are these top 5 Force Affinity Nukers. Let's have a look at them. Hi, Senda here, and welcome to another raid video. In this case, I just thought it was a good idea to make something a bit different, and I just talk about Nukers. There's PvP, there's PvE, and there's normally these champions that if you see in the arena, or you're gonna face in the arena, you know they're gonna be a pain in the ass, you know they're gonna be a hassle, or even if you pull them, you know you pull something really good, and you're something that you're actually gonna use in different places because you know they're useful and they hit really hard. This top 5 is not a one better than the other, there are just 5 of them. I haven't put them in a particular order. You can also leave in the comments if what would be your top 5 of these 5 champions. But let's start with one of them, like I said, in no particular order. Some of them I have them, some of them I don't, some of them I faced them in arena and they've been like a surprise to me, and one of them is kind of an old school-ish one. First of all, I mean, the first one is Candraphon. In terms of Force Affinity, there is not that many Nukers. There are some, but not that, at least for me, become or are really a threat, or they're really scary to face them in the arena. In this case, Candraphon is more of an arena nuker. It's not going to get that much done in PvE. It's not specific to any boss, but it has certain synergies, and if the planets align, he can hit really hard. First of all, we start with this passive that if an enemy places a perfect veil on this champion for 1 turn, each time an enemy turn is filled. This happens very often in arena, against arbiters, against Sifis. He hides himself. When he's in under perfect veil, damage increased by 40%. This is a lot. Also, he'll receive 40% less damage. And on top of that, he's able to buff himself a lot. He puts increased attack, increased damage, increased speed, and also on top of that has an A1, attacks one enemy, extra hit if the target is under any buff, which means a double hitter, full buff, plus 40% damage. I've seen him hitting for like 150,000 damage times 2 because it's 2 hits on an A1 just counter-attacking, so it's dangerous. Sometimes I ignored him because he puts a veil, no problem, no big deal, and he turned the fight the other way around and he managed to nuke me just because he receives a little damage and every time he hits you, he smashes you. Also, he has an AoE that if he kills someone, he resets this skill that again puts him back under the veil and buffs himself. He's not probably the most meta anymore. He used to be very meta, he used to be very used in the arena a couple of years ago, last year, 2 years ago, something like that. Nowadays he's slightly obsolete in terms of he doesn't ignore Stone Skin, he doesn't have too many synergies, especially for the meta that we have right now of increasing crazy amounts of damage and so on, but it's still a dangerous thing, something that this kind of fly that you can just live around, but it can bite you in the ass at the end, and I thought he deserved to be in this list. Next on, we're gonna jump with someone I had my doubts about. I wasn't 100% sure if including him or not on this list, but I think it would be wrong to leave him to leave him out. Basically, he can get so much done PvE and PvP, and was a fusion, so it's a champion that a lot of us probably have. In this case, I have. I know him, I used him, and he's Nishak Verminlord. In this case, Nishak Verminlord is really good for 2 things. First of all, in arena, he's able to place bombs. The bombs do extra damage under Stone Skin, and also they just go through the Stone Skin. And not only that, he's able to place these bombs, also to detonate them, AoE. The problem, if it's a problem in arena, is a polymorph, but he's one of the best counters for Stone Skin in that sense. Also, not only is a very powerful in arena champion because of that, but also he's amazing in PvE. He's able to apply bombs on the A3, on the A1, and these bombs, just he's a bit particular in this case, placed by this skill, the bombs placed by this skill, on enemies whose max HP is equal to or higher than 200,000 will deal double damage. That means it works against any boss. I've seen him do a lot of crazy things. He's able to solo Golem, Ice Golem, he's able to solo Dragon, he's even able, I've seen him doing the new dungeon that we have right now, the Queen of Hearts dungeon, with a regeneration set. He can do, I'm not sure if he's like level 20 something, he can do it. He's able to heal himself, he starts placing bombs on bombs on bombs, and he's able to nuke the enemy and stay alive with food. I mean, he's not gonna farm level 30, but he can get things done. As well, he doesn't work that good in Ice Golem. He can work really good in Dragon's Lair, just because after the bombs explode, he leaves a lot of residual poisons. These poisons are uncleansable, so it's also a lot of extra damage. And like I said, it felt kind of wrong leaving him outside, because I think he can get a lot of things done. There's also several ways of using it. For example, I've used him in Arena with Ramantu, just because he's able to apply block passives and then himself, and it works really good against Taras and Marichka. Basically, Marichka has a passive that if you place a bomb on her, she'll put block damage in all the enemy team, which can obviously counter the damage of the bombs. However, if we place block passives on this Harima, we can just freely place as many bombs as we want. Also, the fact that it goes in stone skin one turn is because it doesn't make sense going in more. In one skill, he'll be able to apply bombs AoE. In this case, if it's against Taras and Marichka, Taras will hit you back, but he'll survive because he's on stone skin, and then we can proceed to activate these bombs and then just watch the fireworks. So I use him in that case. In Arena, especially against teams that I know they have stone skin. He works also very good against UDK, for example, it's also the good Affinity, and it was just wrong leaving him outside. Also, he's able to solo or almost get a lot of not solo, but get a lot of things done in how's it called, in the Doom Tower, in the boss. I don't think it's in this rotation, but basically I have a setup which I can probably maybe show you here. That here it is with Bomal. Two champions that just do ally attack, and he's able to literally just one-shot the boss in like a massive explosion. So it felt wrong leaving him outside. I think he's really good nuker, and of course he needed to be mentioned. Now we go with something, there's also a bit of a debate, and I'm not too sure if he's been shadow nerf, if something has been done to him, but I've seen him do really crazy things. We go back to the demon spawn, and I'm talking about Vulcanos. It's a champion I don't have. He's one of the Unity factions. He came to the game a couple of months ago, so he's not one of the newest ones. But the moment when I tried it in the test server and I did a live test on him, and he was able to attack I was able to see the interaction in Arena, it was crazy. Is the counter to stone skin by default is really amazing. Every time an enemy here on the passive, every time an enemy receives a buff or has their turn meter increased, 50% chance to increase HP, to place HP burn. HP burn, basically it just eats through the stone skin. At the beginning of the fight, every stone skin applied, he has a 50% chance. If the enemy goes first, again, another 50% chance to put HP burn, and if the enemy has HP burn, it activates. This works, or at least it worked, for every enemy buff, which means like if the enemy applies 3 buffs, this is 3 chances to detonate or to activate that HP burn, which is crazy. It just melts through the stone skin, it melts through the enemy's HP, and the enemies can just die out of pure HP burn activation. And if the enemy dies because of one of these HP burn activations, he places block revive if he goes with 3 demon spawn, which is also a plus point for him, because in terms of demon spawn, is a faction with a lot of really good champions. You can get that Lilitu, you can get the aforementioned Candraphone, and you can get, I don't know, the Lamasu, for example, is also another good option, or Prince Kaimars. It's a faction with powerful champions, and I think he can get a lot of things done. And A1, again, each time this skill is used, he stacks damage and damage and damage up to 100%. and he just counterattacks. 50% chance for free with this skill every time an enemy under HP burn, which he places, attacks these champions or their allies. So it's a machine, it's a killing machine. It just goes through the stone skin. He's also on top of that the defense nuker, which means like the more defense he has, the harder he's gonna hit, but also the more defense he has, the longer he's gonna survive, because the more defense, the less damage received. So it's a really powerful champion. Again, when I tested it, I'll probably be putting the footage here of what he's able to do if I haven't done it already. When I tried it, I was really surprised. However, and that's when I mentioned this kind of shadow nerf, when I encountered him in arena, when I fought against other people that they had it, and I was like, this is gonna be a pain in the ass, it's gonna be a long fight, I'm in trouble. I actually haven't been so much in trouble. I don't know why. Maybe I was very good gear, maybe they were very badly geared, I don't know, but it's not been as much a threat of what I imagined, or at least of what I remember when I tested him. But when I tested him, I was very surprised. And then we go with the last two. In this case, this was a bit of a surprise. I'll also put you the video, mainly because of the champion that was for free. It was the Rathalos Blade Master, and again, obviously every champion with insane gear is gonna do insane amount of damage, and obviously a lot of champions have this kind of set that you need the planets to align in order to do certain thing, and this certain thing can be really powerful. There will be a couple of these champions in this series, and one of them is Rathalos, just because he's able to one of these crazy things. The way he works all is in his passive. Basically, he benefits a lot from going with another champions that are able to place HP burn. For example, the one we just seen, Vulcanos. So it will be a very good combo. In this case, if the enemy has HP burn, he inflicts 50% damage against them. In this case, this works amazingly. He's not an arena champion, but he can get a lot of things done. For example, on the Iron Twin Fortress, or for example in Hydra is probably his best place. Not only that, but is this last bit here. Every 5th skill used by this champion deals 200% more damage. If this on top of skills like, sets that will make him ignore defense, because ignore defense is different to this. If it goes and the enemy has a decreased defense, has a weaken, we have certain buffs with a champion that applies them with a 9 priest protection, also will increase our damage. If the enemy has more debuffs, also applied by the set that increases the amount of damage based on the debuffs applied. Also, like I said, all the planets need to align, but he's able to one-shot a lot of things every 5th time, or every 5th skill used by this champion. He's also able, he ignores target's defense over here, ignore 100% if the enemy is a boss, and I think he is able, like here, able to increase his critical damage. So he requires certain setup, but he's able to do a lot of damage. I've seen him doing shitloads of damage in Hydra, works really good, especially paired with champions that place HP burn. And finally, last but not least, another of these champions that, especially in Arena, that you see her and you are like, oh my god, she's gonna be a pain in the ass, she's gonna be annoying. And is no more, no less than Harima. I'm not lucky, I don't have her, I'm in that sense, I don't have her, so I don't have the experience, but I have the experience in fighting her, and she's very annoying for several reasons. First of all, has a passive that makes her almost immune against champions from the Demon Spawn faction, and we've seen 2 in this video that are Nukers from this faction. And also, she has built in her kit, enemy ignore defense effects are decreased by 50%, which means like she's gonna be able to receive a lot less damage. On top of that, she's another defense nuker, which means like the more defense, the harder she's gonna hit, and the harder it's gonna be to kill. But not only that, she also has a skill here, attacks 3 times, decreases the target's defense, which means every time she's gonna be hitting for more and more and harder, because the enemy will have less defense, and at the same time increases this champion's defense, which means every time she's gonna be hitting harder and harder, and receiving less and less damage. And on her A3, she has this attack all enemies, places a provoke for 1 turn, and these debuffs cannot be blocked or resisted. The way she works is also very annoying to face. Like I said, I don't have her, but she can hit really hard with this skill, kills an enemy, and after the enemy is killed, she activates the A3. The A3 is the AoE attack where places provoke. So not only is going to provoke your team, it's going to nuke you, she's going to receive a lot less damage because of her passive, and she can be a real trouble. If you have her, she's amazing, like I said, not only for Arena, but also I've seen her do amazing amount of damage in Hydra. AoE attack, provoke, this A2 triple hitter, reduces defense, and in long battles she's going to increase her defense to crazy amount, so she's gonna last a lot. On the A1, maybe a bit less important, but also very useful in Hydra, a decrease attack, that if it's critical, it will apply the decrease attack AoE, but only attacks one. It's not an AoE attack. But again, it's a pretty useful debuffs to mitigate even more the amount of damage she receives. So that's my top 5. Like I said, maybe I miss one of them in the list. Maybe you can leave it there in the comments if there's something very obvious. I'll reply to the comments saying, yeah, you're right, I missed this one champion. But at least this is my top 5 based on my experience and on what I faced. I've seen some other Force of Affinity champions do also a lot of damage, but they're a bit more of meta. You don't see them that often, you don't find them in Arena, they're not part of the meta on Hydra or in any of the dungeons, so I just left them out. I think these 5 are champions, like I said, if I find them in Arena, I know they're gonna be annoying, or if I have them, I know I'm gonna be annoying to the others, or very versatile or very specific in terms of damage in one dungeon or another. That's all from me today. Let me know what you think of this list. Drop down a comment in case I missed any of the champions, or you think there's another champion that could go in this top 5. Over here, a recommended video, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.